Well, hey, welcome everybody to another Tech Tip Tuesday. Here we are. Man, already passing the middle mark of January. It just
Yeah.
flies by. My name's Ken Close. I am a Healy World USA member, just like most of you guys here, engineer, pioneer, been with Healy since I think the covered wagon. But now we're all the way over here to this rocket ship ride, and I am joined by an awesome guest and co-host, Jake Barron. He is the head of operations for the Americas. Hey, Jake, how you doing?
Good evening, everyone.
Welcome, welcome, Jake. And we have a live technical support agent. Dongni is our lightning fingers in the background tonight, right? Hi,
Yes,
Dongni. How you
she
doing?
she does a great job on our tech team. Very happy to have her on the call tonight.
We are definitely blessed. Everybody say hello to Dongni and thank you for being here. So those of you who are brand new, welcome. I love having new folks here. Those of you that are pioneers, been here forever, you know what the game's like. This is a chat-based forum where you guys put your questions in the chat, and then Jake, myself, Dongni, and sometimes the audience, we come
Yeah.
together and we answer your questions. We solve the mysteries. We expand on the ideas. So what we can't do, that's what we can do. What we can't do is we can't treat, diagnose, suggest, or offer anything around medical conditions or diseases and disorders. We have great resources for that, by the way, folks, and we can point you the right direction. We don't really talk about what Healy program does what for what condition. We just can't do that. Other than that, it's kind of an open forum. So definitely start putting your questions in the chat and let's get this party started. What do you think, Jake?
Sounds good. I almost feel like we're kicking off the new year again because we had Tech Tip Tuesday on January 2nd. We had a smaller crowd. It was still the holidays. And then of course last week was Healy World Meets the World at the same time. So I feel like it's like round two of the new year kickoff again for Tech Tip Tuesday.
It does kind of have that energy, doesn't it? I
Yeah,
love it. It seems like it's been a long time,
I
right? Just
know.
off and on and all that, but that's okay. Here we are, and thank you guys for being here. So let's see what we have in our chat. Here's the questions. The question is, when I want to go to the academy, it says often, this connection is not private, and I can't go on. So it depends on your browser, but the other question is, I bought the MagHealy Meridian app, but I can't see that it's on the Analyse page. Okay, so I've seen that message before, that browser question, or this may not be private. It depends on some of your settings with whatever kind of service you're using, whatever you're using Explorer, Safari, I mean some of the other Google. What are you using, right?
Yeah, it is tricky to answer that because the Academy, it's an HTTPS, not a regular HTTP. So on our end, it is secure. So I'm wondering what the setting is on their end. Maybe they have some sort of extra firewall or extra settings that they might need to adjust specifically for, or add the Healy Academy to the approved list, safe list, whatever you want to call it in their particular browser.
Yeah, and I believe when you say yes, it's safe, and you agree to it and go through, it may add it automatically as well, so not ask you that question anymore. It's not that there's a problem with the link or that URL. It's just something with the settings, perhaps within your internet provider, or not your internet provider, but your Explorer. The other question, though, about let's see, the Healy Meridian app, but you can't see it on the Analyze page. So if you've logged out and logged back in, it should show up. I mean, also depends on, you probably got all the confirmations you bought it, right? Jake, you want to add anything in there?
No, yeah. So also you're going to want, whenever you purchase any program, any module, you're always going to want to go to the Healy app first. So even though maybe you're trying to do the analysis for meridians in the Analyse app, that's where the module actually lives. Make sure you first, after the purchase, go into the Healy app, and usually there'll be at the very top of the screen an update pending, and that will load those programs onto your account, onto the device as well. And then, as Ken mentioned, it should show up in the Analyse app at that point, but you can also log out and log back in too if you don't see it there. And then, if worst case, if for some reason it still doesn't work, and you've restarted your phone, everything like that, reach out to our tech support team, available 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. via live chat Monday through Friday. And if you can't reach them during those hours, you can just go ahead and submit a support ticket too. It's usually a pretty simple fix.
Yeah, on an odd case, if it didn't get activated on your account or something, they can handle it right away. But yeah, it should. I like that. I do this normally too. By the way, when you open your Pink app or your Healy app, the Healy 2 app, the one right over here over my shoulder, you can see this one. When you open that one, it does engage a lot of the things that are added. Now, here's another little hack, by the way. If you don't see the automatic message that Jake talked about at the top, says that there's an update available, you can actually go in to your settings and check for updates. So to kind of force feed the update, under settings, there is a settings, by the way, you guys, if you're not familiar, the bottom of the screen on your app, the little gear icon. Yeah, right there.
Okay, I just thought of something else too that is pretty important. We're not used to connecting to the MagHealy when you're opening the Analyse app. So if you're just connected to your regular Healy device, open up the Analyse app, you're not going to see the Meridians module because it only works with the MagHealy. So if you're looking for it that way, make sure you disconnect, connect to another device, and then pick your MagHealy. And at that point, that's another thing to look out for if you're not seeing it there.
Yeah, that's a good tip. Very good point. Okay, so let's see. I love this question. I've had this question before. We've talked about that on this on Tech Tip Tuesday before, and I've had lots of people ask me this question. The question is, I'm a female. Why is prostate coming up on my scan as a program to run? And here's one of the things that, the other thing that Healy looks at. Healy looks at your objective self. So, in other words, it looks at you from a quantum blueprint. And what's a quantum blueprint mean? It means that in order for there to be matter, material body, mass in space and time, there must be an observer, right? Einstein's observer effect. And so there is a quantum potential in the field. It's just information. And there's getting to be more and more information about this. In fact, Martin Whitman did some presentations on the information field and how the interface is. We've done some quantum entanglement episodes, on Healy for Beginners and Beyond, things like that. It's all connected. And so this quantum blueprint of you is essentially, it's also divided by energy centers. Okay, so it's within the human body. There's energy centers from the root all the way up to the crown. And when something comes up on the Healy, when it's scanning, there may be frequencies within the prostate program that are necessary for your body because of that energy center, right? Where's that prostate? It's like in the first or second center, right there in the survival centers. And so there may be frequencies in that program relative to the alignment of your center, of your energy field. So it's going to come up. I get this all the time. And I've had it in some cases in mine where I've had ovaries or something, it's like, it's a center more than a gender specific content. It's looking for the frequencies in that program that should be applied in order to align some misalignment. Okay.
That's a great question. And, it's one of our top 10, 15 questions that we've been asked over the years here on Tech Tip Tuesday, but it's been a while since anyone's asked it. So I'm glad that it came up again because it's a great question that a lot of anyone new, specifically the Healy also definitely has. So thank you for that great explanation.
My pleasure. I'm glad. I hope that helped. If not, add more information. There's a second part to their question here. I've heard it's only recommended to use the vibrate or resonance function for max a few minutes a day. I accidentally used it all night long. At the option for longer was available in the app. Okay, why is that long period an option if it's not recommended? So great question. Again, we've talked about this. There are certain recommendations if we're talking about an acute condition, something that's very specific to a body part. Acute meaning one specific area versus systemic, meaning the whole system of the body. You can apply to the whole system a bit longer, but maybe only a couple times a day versus acute many times in a shorter period of time in a day. For a shorter period of time a day. Now, when you're vibrating frequencies into the body, my philosophy, my process is to listen to your body. So the reason those options are there are for many reasons. It's not just because the recommendation is for these smaller amounts. There is a great presentation. I think it's in the coaching module, right, Jake?
Yeah, I was just gonna share my screen here. So
let's take a look at that. It's a presentation about that time increments and what that means.
Well, yeah, this is not, it's in the Healy. So if you go to academy.healy.world, go to products, go to coach modules, and then you'll go down here to transmission duration at Healy Coach. And this applies for the other programs in the Analyse app as well. Just a couple minute long video, and it'll kind of show you the different recommended, as yeah, actually mentioned it was a couple minutes. Let me see if we get right to the point here. Yeah, right here. So you see here, yeah, some of these are for, you know, only 36 to 8 times, 37 seconds each, versus some of the other issues related to subconscious, 2 to 3 times for 2 minutes and 49 seconds per day. So it's, again, as you were saying, Ken, you gotta have to listen to yourself. It's not, the option wouldn't be in there if we didn't want anyone to ever be able to run a program for longer than this. But this is a great starting point for anyone that's new, maybe doesn't really know how this might impact them, what the effects might be, because everyone wants kind of a guide. Well, where do I start? This is a great starting point, and then you can adjust as you get more familiar with it.
And then you see there conscious and subconscious, which is, again, back to the acute or systemic. If you're looking at subconscious, that's a big field. It's a big field, right? And so you can, you're going to run it a longer period of time, but just a few times a day, right? So then if it's acute or conscious, it's in your field, it's in your face. You're going to run it for smaller amounts of time, but more often in a day. So if we're looking at big issues, we put it for longer periods of time. If we're looking at acute issues, it's shorter periods of time. Conscious versus subconscious, acute versus systemic. But okay, like I was saying, the important part is that listening to your body, you can overdo it. And what I mean by overdoing it is you're not going to actually damage your body, but you're going to feel like, say some detox type of symptoms. If you've ever done a cleanse or if you've had a deep tissue massage, right? It pulls out toxic burden from the body. Okay. A massage pulls out from the tissues toxic burden, meaning chemistry or emotion, even sometimes. If you've ever had a massage, perhaps, and emotions start coming up, right? Same thing. So when Healy is looking at aligning you, it needs to get rid of what was misaligning you. And to do that, there's going to be a bit of a cleansing. And your body has an excretion system that operates in different ways. Of course, everything from our breath to our normal excretion systems from urination and so on. But the other thing that happens is when Healy is clearing things from your energy body, or from cell structures, it's going to go into your bloodstream, right? And that can tend to feel achy if you're not hydrated properly. The maintenance here, folks, is proper hydration, increasing it even more if you're feeling these symptoms. Movement in the body, getting the lymphatic system to actually function more. And it is your muscle systems that create that movement. And then grounding. I highly recommend that you take up a regimen of grounding, earthing, touching the ground with your hands or feet or bare skin. If that's not practical because it's below zero outside, there are like grounding mats and grounding sheets and things like that that use your house's earth ground electrical system to actually help discharge your body. So big, most important thing, hydration, before and after, by the way. Okay.
And we had, I think Domini answered this one already. Thank you. But there was a quick question here about, can you check the battery level in the Analyse app? So when the new Analyse 2 app first came out, that wasn't actually an option to see the battery level like you can in the Healy app. But in one of the recent updates that was added. So if you when you're connected to your Healy device and you have that green symbol next in the upper right corner, not the red one, the green one means you're connected. Click on that. And then rather than take the time to share my screen, if you can kind of see here, it shows the not working too great here. Well, anyway, click on that icon in the top right, and you'll see that indicator as a percent for the battery level of your Healy device. So.
Yeah, that's an expandable icon. Top right of the screen, it looks like a little Healy, and it may have it'll show you whether you're connected or not. If you're not, it'll be a red little circle there that you're not connected via Bluetooth to anything. So of course, if you're not connected to Bluetooth to any device, you're not going to get a battery life or a battery level right there. But if you are connected, yeah, that's an expandable, a little expandable icon there. I don't know if this got answered. I'm kind of way behind. Is the wall USB a good option for charging? Like, for instance, in your house. So, you know, some of the houses now have a wall plate with the regular AC and then also USB. You'll need to know what the USB amperage output is. And I don't know for sure. Sometimes the cover plate has a USB output amperage. It's always going to be 5 volts, folks. Don't worry about like overvolting or overpowering, right? It's always going to be 5 volt. That's what USB stands for, Universal Serial Bus. In other words, it's the same voltage worldwide. It was a standardization that was agreed upon, and that particular USB design, the pins are always the same for the voltage. All right, so when you plug your cord in there, you're going to get the right voltage, whether it's the amount of current or not. Now, current's the amps that it puts out. So it puts out voltage in amps. The lower the amps, the longer it takes to charge, or like if you're trying to charge your MagHealy, you need to have it 2,500 milliamps or 2.5 amps at least. So it's good to know what you put in. If you don't know, you can contact, if you had an electrician that did the work, or if you're in an apartment complex, you can talk to the management. There's a way to figure it out. Okay. Where are we? Let's see. We have a new member therapist who could not be here tonight. So I'm asking a couple of questions for her. All right, awesome. Can Healy be used in any of its delivery modalities during pregnancy? It's a great question. And again, it's in the contraindications. It's not recommended. Do we have that somewhere in print, Jake? Or is it in the manual? I can't. The manual has changed, and so I'm not
Sorry,
sure.
I was muted there. If you log into, if you're connected to your Healy device or your MagHealy device, you can always pull up the manual itself and the instructions for use. So any of those contraindications, things like that, are typically always listed in the instructions for use. But yeah, like things like microcurrent, the MagHealy, those are definitely not recommended. And then, of course, if there's any question, it's always best to consult with your physician too, because maybe there's a specific situation for you in particular that it's always best to check, especially during pregnancy.
Yeah, when you're during pregnancy or breastfeeding, it's really an advantage to partner with your OBGYN or your whoever your physician is, because you can partner with them, and they may not know about Healy, but you can partner with them and tell them how it works, and they could be extremely curious, and want to try to assist you. The key is partnering and asking those physicians. That's the key.
And I know there's a lot of questions in the chat tonight, and I know Dongni's, you're very busy, but if there is a slow moment, if you want to pull up those instructions for use or post the link to that section, that would be helpful too. So.
Okay, so are the programs in the natural cycle different than the programs the same name in the other programs? So like kidney, natural cycle, and kidney and meridians. Yes, they are different. Because natural cycle is a whole little regimen in itself that utilizes the circadian rhythm wherever you are, right? And of course the changes of seasons. So it uses that as another part of the protocol. And so organs come on and off at different times based on the circadian rhythm. Okay, so a specific organ versus a meridian is a information highway, essentially, right? So, so they're going to be a little bit different, even though they may be speaking to or addressing the kidney. It's for different reasons. So yeah, they are different. Okay. Let's see. I don't know. I'm way up here.
Yeah, this is a great question. I like this. When you run a resonance analysis, or say you're vibrating a program in the resonance module in the Analyse app, does the Healy need to be clipped to you? Says I asked because you can run distance frequencies on someone using that setting, and it obviously wouldn't be on that. So we've talked about this a lot recently with some of the Healy for Beginners and Beyond that we've done related to doing distance analysis for people, for groups, which is what we did last month too. And yeah, when you're working with the information field, it's not a proximity thing. Like if you're wearing the coil and using that, it needs to be within a certain distance from you. Or if you're using microcurrent, of course, you're actually connected to the device itself. But when you're working information field, that's an entirely different method of using, vibrating those frequencies into the information field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that question because it's the showing that their curiosity is is around like how the function is. So the Healy hardware itself, inside there is a frequency generator, right? So it's sending frequencies for sure. But when you're running the resonance, the analysis app, it's using the Healy in a different way. It's using the information field, and the client is known, right? So in other words, you're within the Blue app, you have to create a client, correct? Right? You put their picture, their name, their information about them. You create a client. Now we've got quantum entanglement with that one life form or entity, whatever it is. The client can be a person, a place, an animal, a plant, whatever. There's a lot of options there. But the point is, the content you put in there around that client entangles them with the Healy information field. And so then when you're doing an analysis and it comes up with frequencies that apply to that entity, to that client, it doesn't matter where the client is. Now they're entangled through the quantum field, through the information field. And when those frequencies go out, they go out universally, omnidirectionally, throughout the entire universe. And so no matter where they are, they're going to get that information. It is entangled, and when the molecular being and the frequencies are entangled at an energy level, and then they're applied. So it's I mean, there's so much information in science now about this quantum entanglement understanding. Yet Max Planck put this concept together, what, in the late 1800s? I mean, it's been around a minute. All right. I just love the genius that Marcus has developed to create that entanglement with technology, right? And so how we can apply this to these lives. Okay, here's one. Some Healy programs say possible to use with coil. Are there any that are not usable with the coil? And yes, you're right. Within the app, within the Pink app or the Healy 2 app, when you choose a program, it shows you how to connect to the Healy via the electrodes, right? It shows you where to put them on the body, tells you the duration of the program, tells you how often to use it, once a week, whatever. Tells you also, by the way, if there's any polarity between the electrodes, meaning if you notice on your Healy where the cables plug in, there's a plus and a minus right there on the face. That would mean polarity. There's a positive and a negative. If the program had to run a certain way through the body, it would be listed there, which there aren't any, by the way. It also tells you if it's okay to use or compatible with the coil. Now, some of those programs do not say that. And you'll see that the ones that do not say it's compatible with a coil are the ones that are more of the acute design. In other words, typically they're designed for a very specific region of the body. Acute. It'll say acute. And that just means that it's probably also going to have fewer frequencies. In other words, it will change the frequency base less or none. It may just apply one frequency. And so coil doesn't really apply that way because the coil, when there's current flowing through the coil, it emits a frequency pattern. And when there's only one particular amplitude or one particular frequency, there's really no change. It's just going to be humming along at one particular frequency, the coil will. So they're not optimized. You also probably will see some little indicators to the side of the program itself. The program icon, the picture and the name, right to the upper right corner, there's a little emblem, right? It looks like an emblem, but if you zoom in on it, it says IMF. All right, IMF means that those are compatible with the coil. It stands for individualized microcurrent frequencies, if you're not sure what IMF stands for. Okay. To follow up with Stephen's question on that was, some say use a wet cloth on wristbands. Most don't. Is there a difference if you are getting a good connection? Is it best to use one in general? So if you're getting a good connection, the moist cloth was just to increase conductivity between the skin and the wristband, okay? Or if you're using the electrodes, I'll tell you a little trick about that in a sec. But the moisture between the wristband and your skin increases conductivity. If you're dehydrated, there's not a lot you can do. You need to hydrate the body. Right? You can get the best connection between the wristband and the skin on your wrist and still not get current flow if your body is dehydrated. So you make sure and hydrate well. But yeah, you can. What I've done, a little trick, if you're not getting good connections, I take a cotton ball rather than a cloth. I use a cotton ball. I'll wet it and I'll just tuck it in there, because you don't have to have the entire surface area conducting with the skin, just one area, and that's plenty. Okay. So yeah, small rag is fine. Small little things. If you don't need it, if you just hydrate, what I do is I will run my wrists underwater just real quick, and then I'll put my wristbands on, run the other one, put the wristband on, wipe off the excess water, connect, I'm good. Another way, if you put your wristbands on and it's a warm day, you're going to naturally perspire under them a bit. When you seal up some area of your skin, it starts to perspire, and that increases conductivity. And so that happens. I put my wristbands on almost like putting on my shirt. Whether I'm going to connect or not, I'm wearing my wristbands. Looks like I've got bracelets on all day. But I put them on there, and I usually have great conductivity. When it comes to the sticky pads, The sticky pads, by the way, folks, they do lose their stickiness, right? Well, here's a little trick. You take that sticky pad and you run it under warm water with a clean finger, rub the stickiness under the warm water, shake it off, and let it dry. That's going to rehydrate that sticky surface and it'll stick like it was brand new again. So I shake off the excess water and then I stick them back on that little clear plastic, right? And then they're good as new again. So, but sticky pads are nowhere near as convenient, to my opinion, as the wristbands are. If it says connect to the wrist, I'm using the wristbands, right? Thanks, Stephen, for that question. I love it. And of course, Dongni's crazy with the fingers there, getting extra little information. I like to cover some of these things sometimes because that's the most basic need, is to be connected. If you're running the microcurrent, you need to have connection. And it may get a little frustrating when you get that message, hey, you know, frequencies are being applied, but no current, right?
Yeah. Couple of questions, quick questions here that came in. This is there a telephone number for tech support? So there's not an open phone number, just in general to call. As I mentioned earlier, on the US and Canada shop, the Healy shop, there is live chat where you can get tech support from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. There's also, of course, the option to submit a support ticket. And something that not everybody knows is that we do Zoom calls, one-on-one Zoom calls for people. If you're having an issue with your Healy device, we can't assist via live chat, or we've gone back and forth via support ticket, we can't do it. We will send that individual a single-use Zoom booking link. Then you can pick a time to set up that Zoom call with one of our great tech support agents. And every day, someone on our team is doing a Zoom call with one of our members or customers out there. So, you know, it's kind of, you know, go through the support center first, go through live chat first. And if we can't help you in that way, and we need to be able to find out more or see what's actually going on with your device, we will reach out and give you that Zoom invitation.
I love that new option. That's great. You want to talk about the live chat?
Yeah,
Also,
I mean, yeah, for the US and Canada shops, the live chat is available there. So that's actually the quickest place to go now. If you're have an issue between 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., our team will be able to help you out there. And a lot of times we can solve it just via the live chat. So, you know, which is great.
all right.
There's
Let's see.
another question right below that. It says, is there a reason that the natural cycle only has times and not what the program is? So yeah, if you look at the program page, it's like 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. or, you know, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. instead of the actual program name on the natural cycle. But if you want to go and actually, I mean, as far as like guide back to the Healy app manual that I referenced earlier, if you just go to that, it still does show what those program names are. So you see here, this is in the Healy app manual in the natural cycle section. You see the program name is the time, which I was just referring to, but then you see next to it the meridian that's related to that particular period of time where it's the most active. So that's kind of the time. And then, of course, you can always reference this manual if you want to know specifically what's being worked on there.
If all else fails, read the manual, right?
Yep.
Okay, let's see. Here's one that says the pink app states that my device is running low on battery charge and will not continue the program when I close that notice, but the Healy is fully charged. Okay, so are you sure you're connected to that? Okay, so you're connected to the Healy and it says up on the top icon, you click on it, it says it's fully charged. Is that what the app is saying? Because even though you've plugged it in and charged it, the light went off. What's the app saying? Because if you're using the Healy 2 app and up at the top right, you click on the the icon up there and it shows your battery life, what's it saying? Is it saying full charge? Because that's not, you should not be getting that message. If it thinks that it's, if it thinks
Yeah,
it's,
I was gonna say there was I think it was back in November. There was a period of time where this was popping up sort of randomly for a small, very small number of people. And make sure your app is updated to the most recent version, because there's been an update since then that addressed this particular issue. So always, when you're fully closed out of the app, open it back up, at the top you might see an update pending. If not, you can go into the settings and then click on your Healy device itself, and then there's a program version, and you'll see an arrow at the very far right. You can also click on that to manually search for an update as well. Or since there's not really any data stored in the Healy app itself either, you could just delete the app and reinstall from your app store to make sure you have the most recent version too. That's another simple way to make sure you have that.
yeah, if you open directly from the app store, it's always going to update and give the most current. Sometimes it says update, sometimes it just says open. And if you open it, it will automatically be the one. And you can check the app version. By the way, we just had an update with the Healy Advisor app. So
yeah, Heal Advisor app, and then also the Analyse app today. Actually, there was an update to the new Analyse 2 app, and one of the biggest thing I think for a lot of people, there's now the ability to rename list. So any Aura list, Coach Module list, Meridian list, you can actually now edit it and name that list anything that you want. So for anyone that's been waiting for that feature, we always say to send feedback in the Analyse app itself. There's a settings and then a send feedback, and you can submit specific feedback related to the app, and that goes straight to the product development team. So enough people have requested that. So it was included in this most recent update. So we do listen. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer because this app is our most complex one. There's a lot going on with it, but yeah, just keep in mind anything you would like to see, anything you think would be more convenient, go ahead and just submit that via the app itself.
I love that feature. Suggestion box.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. Stanley's got a question here. It says, if someone normally wears an EMF necklace, can programs be run while it's around their neck? So let's unpack this for a second, because an EMF necklace is designed to block electromagnetic frequencies or electromagnetic force. Healy transmits EMF. Now, don't let that word or that phrase or those letters freak you out, because that's actually the way that we transmit information via radio waves. It's called EMF, electromagnetic frequency, or electromagnetic force is what was first just created by Tesla. So if you're wearing a necklace designed to ground that out or nullify that or counteract, then if you're running Healy with the coil, or if you're running Healy with the blue app, it's going to interfere. If you're running Healy with the wristbands, it's not going to make any difference. The necklace won't make any difference, because the microcurrent is the carrier wave going through the cell structure, through the water of your body. It's the carrier wave for the frequencies. They're getting in through your body through your water, right? That's the transmission medium. But when you're running the coil is sending those frequencies out via electromagnetic wave. Okay. Or if you're running the information field, the blue app, right, through the Analyse app, then it's trying to get the information through your field. Now, there's a little bit of, I don't want to call it gray area, but there's when you're running the blue app and you are quantum entangled with the client and you're sending the information to their field, you're sending it to the quantum field, not to the body, right? In that regard. But when you're running Healy for pretty much anything, it's also sending those frequencies out of the frequency generator within the hardware. So your EMF necklace would be blocking that, but it wouldn't be blocking it when it's sending it to their information field. Okay. So, anyway, I would say, test it, find out your effectiveness. The wristbands are going to go through anything as long as you're getting conductivity. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, Jake, you got one?
Yeah, so there's a ton of great questions tonight. Thank you everybody for putting these into the chat. We'll get through as many as possible, but if not, of course we'll be here again next Tuesday as well. But this is related to recommended protocols. If you're going through resonance programs, starting with the general and moving to more specific. So Ken, I know you have a great protocol that you've recommended a lot, specifically related to the Analyse app, as far because of course a lot of people, when they first use the Analyse app, they might run a analysis for all Healy programs, and of course it gives you the top 5 program groups, and then from there maybe you want to narrow it down to, okay, maybe I take the top program group, do another analysis, and then see what's going on within that one as well. But Ken, could you just briefly, because we're doing a lot of questions, but sort of just discuss what you might want to do with those results, and how you don't need to run a new analysis every day, because there's a lot to work with, a lot to work through from those initial results.
Yeah. So whenever you're doing an analysis on yourself, you want to give that analysis its due course, right? Don't run analysis today and then another one tomorrow, so on and so on. You need to give it its due course. And like Jake said, it's going to give you the top 5 recommended. If you're running all Healy programs, it's going to give you the top 5 pages. And remember, there's up to 12 programs per page. So that's pretty general still, isn't it? So what I do is I take all of those top 5, starting with page number 1, and make sure you put it in this order, because Healy reveals to you what is necessary based on the priority. And number 1 is number 1 priority, and so on down the list. So when it gives you the top 5 pages, you write down those top 5 pages. Then you need to do an analysis on each one of those pages to give yourself the top 5 programs assigned to each page. All right. And again, write them down in order. So if you did that, 5 times 5 is 25 programs, right? It's recommended that you do 3, maybe 4 per day. So if you write down all those programs in order of priority, page 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 programs, page 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 programs, page 3, and so on, you've got pretty much an entire week, don't you, of programs. And you just run them that way. The first 3 on day 1, the next 3 on day 2, the next 3, and so on down the list. Okay. You do that protocol for an entire week. Don't scan again because you need to give your body time. If I was to tell you to start this diet today, and then tomorrow we're going to start a different diet, and the day after a different, and so on, how would you know what works? You really don't, do you? So that's the protocol I use when you're doing the scans. If you're using some other database, it's going to list the top 5 entities in any database that you choose. Run those 5. And I recommend you run those 5, 1, 2, 3 on day 1, 1, 2, and then back to number 1 on day 3, and do that for an entire week. Give yourself time for every scan before you go scanning again. Okay. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. And again, back to the second part of that question that Stephen asked, he says that I'm getting mature woman followed by prostate. Again, it's those frequencies within those programs are going to have specific things necessary for your body, for that energy center, whatever it is. I try to let go of gender when I'm doing this, because we're masculine and feminine, folks. We are a combination of these things, and we really could be way out of balance. I guarantee you most of the masculine is probably a lot out of balance with their feminine. I'm just noticing this, worldwide. So it's not that it's not saying you're a mature woman. It's not even necessarily saying prostate. It's looking at particular frequencies within those protocols. You need them, run them. Thanks, Stephen. Okay.
Ken, we've got a special guest on the call tonight. So we have a question from our new managing director for North America, Peter Christoph. I think we better answer this one, Ken. What do you think?
I'm in. Hey, Peter, welcome. Thanks for coming.
But it's a great question. This is one of our, I would say, top 10 questions that we've gotten over time on Tech Tip Tuesdays. Is when would you want to use the coil as opposed to the wires or wristband? So adhesive electrodes, wristband electrodes, which is a great question, because it's a lot more convenient to use the coil in a lot of situations. So that for me is always one where if I'm on the go, and I don't have the wires in the way, maybe I don't have a long sleeve shirt to kind of tuck them in there. That's certainly one. But when you're using the electrodes, that's when you're benefiting from the microcurrent and getting those ATP benefits as well. So Ken, what would you add to that?
Yeah, I love this question because it's so rich, and Healy does have so much variety. And the wristbands, I mean, again, from my perspective, if we're looking at, I like to look at things in terms of invasiveness to the body. And now none of this is invasive, but if we had to place it on a scale of being invasive, the microcurrent is essentially applied directly through the body. The most invasive, if you're going to use that term, it's not the right term, but it's the most connected to the body that there is. The coil is the next because it's right there near your body in proximity. And then the least invasive, or I should say the most broad in terms of effectiveness, is the Blue app or things from the Analyse app in vibrate mode. And that's why they call it vibrate mode. The electrodes, when you're connected, folks, studies from decades show that you increase your ATP production by up to 500% by applying microcurrent to the body. Increased in protein synthesis by up to 70%, and increase in amino acid transport by up to 40%. Now, that's through the microcurrent. Now, what Healy's done is that's why Healy uses microcurrent. But microcurrent is essentially just electron flow through the body. That's the carrier wave, like a pail, carrying the frequencies through your body to the specific systems, organs, and cells based on their frequency, right? So this electron flow vibration at the frequency, it activates very specific portions of your body, okay? The magnetic, and it's useful because, I mean, if you don't have any contraindicators, so if you have implants, you can't use microcurrent. So again, Healy designed the coil to be another way of applying those. Yes, for convenience, but also to get beyond some of the implant issues, right? So, and then the third option, which is the Advisor app, it gets, again, pretty much there are no contraindicators. I mean, there's not very many. So it can touch a wider bandwidth of humans or clients, because it can touch plants and buildings and cars. And so we've just broadened the horizon. But thanks for the question, Peter. I love that question because we do get that. And it's worthwhile. It's worth taking a moment for. Okay. Where were we? Let's see. We got a kudos. Here's a Emirates says, thank you. Love the tips. You're very welcome. I'm glad you're here, by the way. Is it okay? Steven's got a question. I might have skipped some, but I just, here's a question. Is it okay to be grounded, be on grounding sheets while using Healy? So remember, the microcurrent is going through your body. All right. And when your body is grounded, you're essentially shifting your pH by grounding, but you're also neutralizing your charge. So the microcurrent going through your body is addressing specific cells and structures. So it's still going to do that. You can be grounded, yes, and still get the effectiveness of the microcurrent. You'll be grounded and still get the effectiveness of the coil as well. So yes, you can be grounded. I recommend that you ground afterwards, right? Let the body do its charge and then ground and release any excess, but you're still going to get through your body. I know it's hard to see. This works on the electron level. Okay, so smaller than the cell, right? All the way down to the atomic structure. Okay. Did I miss something? Let me see.
No, I kind of went back down there and worked my way back up, but two questions let's just address here related to PETs. So the question was, can the cables and coil both be used on PETs? So yeah, coil for sure. A lot of people had great results using the coil with their PETs. And as far as the cables, there is a specific animal kit that we sell as an accessory via our shop that makes it a little bit easier to put the cables on. It depends on the animal. Some people use this, this on horses versus, a small dog or a small cat. It's depending on the size of the pet, it's a little bit easier to use it. I know for people with a lot of like really small pets, they just use the coil or something like that. But yes, there's specific guidelines for running the programs with pets, and that information is included with the animal module itself. But as far as keeping the intensity lower than you would normally use on say a human, but because their animal or pets are much more sensitive to these things as well. So always best to start as low as possible when you're first using this on any pet. And then also the second part of that question was, can a pet program be run? Can you vibrate programs for pets that aren't local? So yeah, that is a great topic, and we discussed it a little bit on our last Healy for Beginners and Beyond in December. Sonia Tarita, who's a frequency veterinary specialist, mentioned how she does that type of thing, and we're actually, I don't think this month's Healy for Beginners and Beyond, but probably next month, we're going to plan a group session with pets. So like in December, we did a group analysis, and we were vibrating programs via the group that was on that Zoom call. We're going to try to do one with pets as well, which is exactly what you're discussing here as far as vibrating programs to pets at a distance.
Yeah, I love that. It's so effective. And as Jake said, you guys, when you're running the microcurrent on a pet, and you're using the specific hardware that comes with that pet module, then you're going to see the current flow. The indicator on the app is going to show you've got current flow. Do not turn it up past that. That you may see the pet, and you may even need to turn it down more. Watch the pet. Watch your pet, your animal, and them, right? So if they start to get agitated or uncomfortable, then definitely turn it down. Like Jake said, they're much more sensitive. The other part of that, they're not analytical like humans are. They're just accepting, right? They trust you. And so you want to make sure you keep it down at a level that's very comfortable for them. Like I said, they're not analytical. We crank it up and say, if I can't feel it, it's not doing anything. Well, that's not true. So it's not true. If you can feel it, you're actually sabotaging yourself, by the way, because this is a system that's supposed to be going in subconsciously under the radar of the cells. If you can feel it, the moment you can feel something, what happens? Where do you place your attention? Right on the thing, right? So when you move your attention over to the stimuli, you've put yourself into a bit of a fight or flight mechanism, into that sympathetic nervous system, because you're analyzing. And we want to be in the parasympathetic. We want to be in the rest and digest. We don't need to feel it. So optimally, you'll crank it up to where you can and drop it down one. But with a pet, just watch for that current flow and don't go anymore. And if they start to get agitated, drop it down again. Even if there's no current flow, even if the system says no current is flowing, if your pet is agitated, believe me, even though the app is saying no current is flowing between the electrodes, they're still getting the frequencies out of the Healy and they're feeling it. Okay. So they're sensitive, and there are humans that are that sensitive as well. Okay. Where were we? Here's another question about, is it safe to use Healy and bands during a woman's cycle? I love this question. Are there any times that it's not safe to use if you have a fever? Like, for instance, if you have a fever? No, there's no contraindicators around whether a woman's on her cycle. In fact, there are programs designed specifically for, additional symptoms that may be onset from that cycle. So there's some programs that are designed for that. So in fact, I have a great testimonial. My daughter, she was having some, terrible symptoms from her cycle, used the Healy, and it helped a lot. So yeah, there is no reason you can't do that. You can definitely use it during a cycle, and there's no contraindicators around a fever. Okay. A little secret, I've been with Healy for quite some time, and some of the program names have been changed. And one of the programs is now called, what's it called? Chillin'. Yeah, that one's a great one to run during a fever. Okay.
So let me go. I think we only have a couple. This hour has flown by. A couple more minutes here, but
I know
this is a great question. Another one of our frequently asked questions. It says, if tingling occurs so when you're running a microcurrent program, but it's only occasional, would that intensity level be considered okay? So this is an excellent question, because anyone that's run a Healy program, because you could be running the program, you got great conductivity, everything's fine. The program's been running for 20 minutes, and then all of a sudden you feel this tingle in your arms. You're like, oh my, what's going on here? And the intensity level hasn't changed. It's the frequency, the lower frequencies you can feel more. So that's one of those things where, if it's too much, as Ken just mentioned, you don't want to feel the tingling, because then your sort of body's fighting against that sensation. So you want it to be at a level where you have conductivity. You don't need to feel the tingle for it to be working there. So, if you're going along and everything's fine, and it starts dropping down to some of these lower frequencies and it's uncomfortable, just reduce the intensity some to a level that's comfortable for you again.
Yeah, that's the understanding. Anything below about 400 hertz is a frequency, what we call closer to density, aka matter, material form. And so those tend to take more power. So people will crank it up to get those frequencies through, right? And then some of the other frequencies, though, are going to take less power, and you'll feel them. So it's kind of good to watch your body and how it responds. And if you've turned the Bluetooth off, and like this is the second part of Stephen's question, is that if I've turned the Bluetooth off, how do I change the level? Well, you can't. you gotta turn the Bluetooth back on. Now it depends on how you turn the Bluetooth off.
Yeah.
Because if you're running a program, and you've in the app turned the Bluetooth off, you're not gonna be able to turn it back on. You have to actually hit the power button twice in order to turn the Bluetooth back on to connect back to the app. Well, you've already stopped the program, right? So my suggestion is I always like to run things through with the Bluetooth on, monitoring the trust me, I spent hours monitoring this system to find out how I respond, so that I could better coach, better heal myself or work with myself and coach others. So I knew exactly what was going on. And so it's important that you watch that as you're using your system. but you won't be able
Yeah,
to.
and if
Go ahead,
I
Jake.
I was just gonna say, rather than if you think you might need to adjust the intensity later, rather than turn off the actual Bluetooth chip, I know it doesn't turn off the Bluetooth itself, but if you just hard close out of the app completely, it'll disconnect from the Bluetooth, but it won't turn that chip off. And that way, if you open the app again and connect again, it'll bring you right back. It'll show you where you are in the program. And then you can adjust the intensity there too. So really depends on the program. And if you think you are going to need to adjust that intensity at all.
Wow. Great questions, you guys. I mean, feels like we're back at home, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We're back in it again. It's like, full hour goes flying by, lots of questions. Anything you want to last minute?
We there's still several questions that I don't think that we were able to get to, but join us, next Tuesday. Come on early, put those questions in right away, and we'll get to those first for anything that we couldn't cover today.
Absolutely.
And for anyone looking we covered a lot today, so anyone looking for this recording, you'll be able to find it at our Healy World Americas channel on YouTube. You can get to it directly just by going to HealyAmericas.com. This recording is typically available within 48 hours on our YouTube channel.
I love it. Your team is awesome, Jake. Thank you very much for getting those up, and they're all hyperlinked with information about the questions. It's beautiful. It's a wonderful resource. By the way, guys, if you want to save the chat, if anything in there was useful, click on those 3 little dots down there in your chat box. That'll pop up a option menu to say save chat. At the end of our call, it'll pop up. If you're on your PC or laptop, there'll be a message pops up that says save chat, and you'll have that content. But like Jake said, if we didn't get you this week, please join us next week. We should be back to a pretty regular schedule and be able to get to your questions. Be first and be at the top of the list, and let's get your questions answered. Thanks for being here, Peter. Hey, thank you very much, Jake. Dongni, I love you. Thank you for being here. You guys rock.
Thanks, everyone.
We'll see you next week, everybody. Bye for now.